Pod. Pod. Obviously, thanks for getting in touch and stuff. I guess, like, take it back to those early 2000s. Like, what are you up to and what music were you into at the time?
All different music, really. I'm a bit older than that, really. So I was into, the Oasis movement, Ocean Colour Scene, that sort of movement. But I kind of drifted in to. I was asked to go to a Libertines concert by a friend of mine that was about 6 or 7 years younger than me. I used to work with him, and I went to a Brixton night, not the famous one where they crashed the stage, but I went to a Brixton night, and I'm told by him that Alan Wass, in Left Hand at the time, supported them, but I can't remember him. So
Right.
it wasn't that memorable. But to be quite honest, for my sins at the time, I wasn't really a Libertines fan anyway. And a couple of years later, I did get into Pete Doherty more as like an individual artist. I did always rate him more than I rated Cole Barat, even though they're both brilliant. But and I went to Baby Sham's gigs, early ones, which were shambolic and a bit messy. And that's when I really got into Alan Wass. That's when I first see him. But like I say, a couple of them at the time I had a nan that lived in Seven Sisters Road, which is up near Finsbury Park in London. And I went to a gig there. But like I say, a lot of the early Baby Shambles gigs were had a much younger audience. I was in my 30s by then, and was really like manic. A lot of the people were going crazy, So it was a big thing around him, and you couldn't really hear Alan Wass a lot, but the songs I did hear were quite good, and I always liked him. And a lot of the times he was in quite a state, as was Pete Doherty at the time. They'd turn up drunk and a bit. So I was around that time, but then around that time he started. I suppose later on, it was about 2007, really, that he started with the Lipstick Melodies, and I see him there first in the Finsbury Tavern, and that's when I really got into him. And I did follow him around then quite a lot for the next 2 or 3 years before life took over.
Right. So how old are you at this point then?
I'm 51 now.
Right. So
at that time, I was approaching 40 fast.
okay.
Right. I would have been 36, 37, 38 that way.
Right. But I mean, like, I suppose that I'm getting on for that age now, but you kind of know what you're into at that point, don't you? Kind of, you know something when you see it, kind of thing.
Well, I've also followed around the dogs. I was never into really a lot of, I know the Arctic Monkeys and that were around at that stage and that, but I wasn't really into them either. Like I say, a lot of it was a much younger audience. I know it's only like 5 or 6 years, but that's massive in music. And I was gigging then around about that time myself, and still, gigging old Cooler Shaker songs and things like that. But I was more into, have you heard of the Dogs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was following those around as well at that time. Which, funny enough, the bass player who left the Lipstick Melodies went on to join a band with Johnny Cook. I think it was called 8-Man Spaceman later on in life. So they was all around on that same circuit, so I followed them around then. But as for the charts, really were Ed Sheeran and that at the time, so I wasn't really into anything that was current. I was into still the older, Ocean Colour Scene, that sort of thing, Paul Weller, and these punky sort of new wave-ish bands that were about, which was obviously the Libertines and Lipstick Melodies and that. Even though Lipstick Melodies later on became a bit more country, didn't they, rather than like country rock, rather than how they started. They started off really bluesy, rootsy.
Right, okay, yeah. So you're saying you were playing, was that, you say you were in a covers band or something?
Yeah, I was just in a covers band. I'd done like certain songs, we wrote certain songs in there, but nothing, only pub gigs. There was nothing, I wasn't on a circuit or anything.
Yeah. But
it's really fun.
Yeah, I was going to say it'd be good laugh doing that in London, I reckon.
Yeah, it was good. It was all around London. Now I got to play like in Covent Garden a couple of times there, but nothing massive, like I say. It was just really for drink money at the time.
Yeah,
that was it.
Decent. Yeah. So, at what point, like, what really turned you on to Alan Wass? And obviously, when you first started seeing him, like, what set him apart for you? Do you think?
He was just different. He was a lot more bluesy, but he seemed to take blues and country music and like flip it round, and put a real modern slant on it. It wasn't just like Dolly Parton or Kenny Rogers type country and western. There was bits of that, but he seemed to really be able to, his lyrics were brilliant and seemed a lot more current than what was actually going on around him at the time. And like I say, it's just his music was just like a bit more captivating because it was so many things mashed into one, like he was. You know, sometimes you come dressed as a mod with a trilby like Pete Doherty, and other times he'd turn up like John Wayne. You know, so it was mad to see him. It was just you know, I spoke to him a couple of times, and he had like an eccentric personality as well. You know, I asked him a couple of times, asked him for calls and that, and sometimes he talked to you in like an American accent, like a Southern American. It was funny, you know. It was just a real like eccentric character, but real interesting.
Yeah, I mean, reading Pete Doherty's book recently, like that definitely came across.
Yeah.
He was like, he'd always say to Pete something like, it's all for the boys, Pete. It's all for the boys.
Yeah. So he was always shouting and bawling, but I can't. He was always like really excitable. Like he was like a bit manic, I suppose. I don't know, you know. I don't know him that well, but I think he was a bit manic, you know, a bit definitely what do they call it, you know, when people can't sit still. You know,
Yeah.
hyperactive, definitely.
Yeah, it sounds like they both were, to be fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard him shout it's for the boys, but I can imagine. As I was reading bits, I can imagine him being like that.
Yeah. Then obviously, like you've made the short kind of documentary on YouTube. Was that something you had planned for a while, kind of thing?
No, what it was, where we was in lockdown and everything, and I was we was getting ready for like a 50th birthday party as we come out of lockdown, and I was sorting through bits and pieces, you know, clearing out. We was getting rid of a big chest of drawers and everything, and I was clearing out the stuff, and I came across like an old stamped leaflet. It was nothing special, but it had Alan Moss's autograph on it. I got him to sign it at one of the gigs years ago, and I thought, I'll look him up. I hadn't, you know, listened to his music for years. I'd gone like a good 5-10 years even, and I knew that he died, and I looked up and I couldn't find his music, nothing. Only like bits on YouTube that was like really bad audio and bad quality. And I thought, God, there must be something that's up there. Then I found an old site that I found out Eliza put up, and she'd put up 4 digital albums, but she'd since taken them down, so they wasn't available. So I was thinking, oh, do you know what I mean? I thought I could even probably buy one, but I couldn't find nothing. And all I could find was, you know, stories about his, you know, drug addiction and what he got up to with Pete Doherty. And he come across like you know, some sort of like a junkie hanger-on, which he really wasn't. You know, he was a definite, you know, artist in his own right. And so that's when I started searching for his music. But I do guitar lessons there as well. And one of my students said, you know, try this site, which is like an illegal like MP3 download where you can request, you know, albums. So I went on there and he wasn't on there, and I put his name in the Lipstick Melodies. Then someone from Russia got hold of me and sent me a link to download them 4 albums, which is what I downloaded. Right. And there was a lot more on there than I'd heard. You know, I'd heard like, you know, all the like the obvious tracks, but there was a lot more tracks on there that I had never heard. So I looked at them and I thought, well, that's mad that they're not out there and there's nothing. You know, some of the songs are not even up there, let alone like in any quality. So that's when I started. I thought, well, I had a studio set up where I do, you know, home recording and that. And I'd been remastering a few old tracks of friends of mine from years ago from tape and that. And I thought, I wonder if I can get his audio onto the videos. And that's what I started doing. I started syncing the audio as best I could with the video footage. And then I thought, well, I might, you know, like I said, start like, you know, reading up, trying to find out anything about him is impossible. There's literally, before I started putting stuff up, there's nothing up there apart from, you know, what you got up to. And that was it. So that's why I started putting them together. And then I spent about, I don't know, good 6 months putting them together.
No, yeah, you've done a good job, mate. I enjoyed them.
Fans, like I say, it's a bit of a gut now. I look and I think I could have made them a lot better there with the information I got. But at the time, I didn't have a lot to go
on. I mean, yeah, before watching that, you know, the only real song I knew off the top of my head would be Hired Gun, but the songs on there that I thought were good, like Hard Times, No Sunshine, and I was enjoying that.
Yeah, brilliant song, that one.
And Golden Heartache as well, that was good.
Yeah. There's the other song that Runaway Blues as well is good. You know, and that's the one that I really remember really going. It used to get quite rowdy at gigs when they were playing that song. And like sometimes he'd do like a massive, like, you know, 10-minute like intro to it where he was just him on the guitar. So, you know, it really highlighted. I've since got footage of him doing certain things on his guitar. That's what I said. Another thing that it doesn't bring out is how good he was on the guitar. He had Sky Murphy, you know, doing the lead guitaring, but I think that was so he could concentrate on the vocals. But his guitaring was mega, it was mental. And you think like all that was never out there.
Yeah. I was trying to I was playing Hired Gun on the guitar this morning, but I was trying to copy the intro. Like, the first part of it's quite easy, but then he does like something quite tricky towards the end of it.
I've got a lesson of that up on my channel.
Oh, really? I'll have a look at that.
That's what a student of mine wanted to learn that, so I worked out and I put up a lesson. So it takes you through it nice and slow.
Oh, brilliant! I'll look at that today. Um, and yeah, I noticed on, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's the Who the Fuck is Pete Doherty documentary, and
Yeah, yeah,
there's a real someone I put it up on our channel, and it's a real small clip of Alan Ross playing this song backstage at Baby Shambles, and they're all singing it. And someone
yeah.
commented saying, "Do you not have any idea what this song is?" And someone found out it's like a Jefferson Airplane cover, I think.
I see. I've got to rewatch that, but I thought that was Runaway Blues they were playing.
And someone said it's this Jefferson Airplane song called "It's No Secret," I think.
Could be. I'll
And
have a look. I'll have to put
um,
that in.
I listened to the original, and I think it is, but he's
Yeah,
obviously put like his own spin on it,
yeah.
but it makes it sound brilliant. Yeah.
But he is, that's what I said, he's very good, and he'd done loads of things. He played the drums, I found out since, the piano, the bass, harmonica, obviously. He plays loads of, and they were a mad band to watch. I mean, Scott Murphy used to burst into trombone solos halfway through it. It was mental to watch him play live, that's what you don't see out there, which is what I wanted to bring out. But that's not the only reason I've done it, really, was to find out, and actually put out the real story band, because he wasn't just the drug addict, So it was this, and I'll tell you one thing I've noticed since I've been doing it, where I've heard from so many people since I put them up, is there's really a divide in the camp. There's people that really love Pete Doherty and what he does for him, and there's people that really think that Pete Doherty held him back, and which is really strange. Pete Doherty, in my eyes, has only ever furthered his career. They only ever mentioned Alan Moss in like a positive way. They said he was my friend and he was a brilliant songwriter and other things, but the thing I thought is that it's a shame because there's nothing to reference it to, because people I found took it as Pete Doherty's only furthering his own songs and saying that I wrote this about Alan Moss and this one's for Alan Moss, and it's always his own songs he's playing. But there's nothing out there to link it to a song. If you was, say, an older person and thought, well, I remember, Alan Moss, and looked up and you think there's nothing there of him. And especially if you was like an 18-year-old at a Libertines gig and thought, I wonder who Alan Moss is then, and looked him up, there's definitely nothing. So it ain't going to go anywhere, which is why I wanted to put up the site. So now if people can think, well, who is this bloke? And they look him up and there's actually something there now where they can go, oh, yeah, he was good, or he was this, or he was that.
Yeah. No, it's good, mate. And did he say in the film, I think he said you'd spoken to Eliza, is that right?
No, Eliza, originally, when I put up the trailer that I was going to release on what I thought was his 40th birthday, it's turned out that his birthday was wrong in the paper when he died, and this he's actually a year older than what they've said in the paper. So,
right.
41st birthday, I released it on. But as I put it up, she liked it. The shot I put up like a little trailer. I said coming on the 7th of June, the first part, and she liked it, and then she shared it and she followed me, and then I put up the first part, and I've heard nothing since. So I don't know whether it's upset her or whether she hasn't. I've been in contact with his family.
Okay.
And they're all okay with it, but they're not really. I'm getting the impression they're not really interested in giving any sort of information about. But like I say, I think they got so much crap, while he was alive and after he died, that they don't really want to get involved, and they're a bit reticent. The only thing I've been told is by one of his sisters that she will get back in touch. She just needs a bit of time to see what's going on. So, but other than that, for Eliza, I've not heard a thing. I have tried to contact all of them through social media, etc. But I don't think a lot of people I've found don't really run their social media site, especially Eliza. She's like an author in her own right now. And a lot of the websites like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, I think, are run by people that are pushing her bookwork. So whether even getting the messages, I'm not sure. But I've messaged her, but I won't go to personal accounts for obvious reasons. I don't want to start bombarding them. I don't want to come across as some weird stalker either.
Yeah. Have you tried to interview the musicians that knew and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm in touch with Alexi Christo. He's given lots of information for the site, and he's also going to do an interview. I've got that coming up. Phil Clark as well, the drummer, who was also mixing the last album that they were working on when he died, which is called Bound to Blue. That was the project it was under. He's currently, I'm just talking with him. I've only just got in contact with him because a lot of people are in different countries. I think Alexi's in America. Sky Murphy's now in France. Richie and Phil, as far as I can tell, are still gigging together. So Phil's got in touch and he's given me some information now for the website, and he's going to find out some information about the tracks. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I don't want to say too much, but there's music out there that's not been released.
Okay, right.
So if I can, get hold of that or share that, it'd be great. but I'm not sure. Like I say, there's a lot of legalities as well in there surrounding music and everything. So what actually actively can be shared? Because at the moment I'm sharing his music because I was told that the rights were either bought or given to Pete Doherty to his music, and I think this is to do with some sort of debt that Alan might have been in at the time. But again, that's not been corroborated. I've heard that from about 4 or 5 different people.
Okay,
Is why the music got taken down in the first place. I think she had quite a hard time wrestling the rights from Sensible Records, Eliza, when he first died, and I think it might have been quite expensive for her. So even though it was successfully done, I think Pete Doherty had a big hand in helping her to do that. So whether that's that's where it's going to be released. Plus, I also got told that Eliza might be writing a biography about him, but this was like they got told this years ago, and then she released a book called Life and Death Parade, which has got lots of references to Alan in it, and lots of things that you wouldn't know, like his country and western references, what he wore, how he was as a person, and I think that was pretty cathartic for her to get over his death, and I think that's gone away now. I don't think she's going to write, because around the time she was asking, I wish people would ask me about my husband, and I wish people would ask me about Alan and everything, and then now she's got more or less a lot. Well, obviously life moves on, doesn't it, for people? So I don't think she's as keen to talk about him as she was then.
Yeah, fair play. But it's interesting, watching the film where, obviously he had his accident about a month before he died, and just interested in your take that you thought maybe, obviously, like he was struggling to play guitar after that, and that maybe it was affecting him more than he let on. Do you think?
Well, the official releases at the time, especially from Eliza, was that he was really upbeat and he was going to become the first ever, one-arm guitarist and blah blah. You got to think, you're a guitarist yourself. I'm a guitarist to a certain level, not to his level, of course, and you think that'd be devastating if you couldn't. And I mean, and he couldn't, honestly play the guitar, especially to his level. Like he was like almost a virtuoso. So how could you? You couldn't be that upbeat. I know it's good to be upbeat and that, but I think, I've seen a lot of footage and heard from a lot of people who were close to him at the time, and they said, he was a lot more depressed than what he was putting out, which is, inevitable. And I think this sunk him further into whatever troubles he had anyway, because, he was obviously, I've heard so many salacious stories. I've had people offer to sell me stories of footage of him like being in terrible states and that, and I'm really not interested in it. But I mean, I think he had big problems, real big problems, obviously. And I think around that time, I think it's obviously made it a lot worse. And I think around that time, I don't think he was as upbeat as what Eliza has put out or whatever, because a lot of people that were around him, I've not heard one other person say that he was in a very good way at that time. And quite a lot of the time, people close to him don't even want to talk about it. That if I ask anything, not that I've really probed far with it, they don't really want to give any information, which is fair enough. It's hurtful for them and the sort of subjects, and not the subjects I want to cover anyway, really. But I don't think he was in a very good place, and I think that's why this accident took place. And then I think, his death took place as well because of that. I would have said, you haven't got to be a psychologist to work that out, but like I say, he was positive where he's putting things together, and like you said, you see him playing the harmonica, which is supposedly his last ever gig, and obviously they had songs that they were putting together for the album, and I know Phil was traveling to his flat so he could do vocals on them and that, and I think he would have took a lot more vocal role, but Alan wrote every single note and word and chord to his song. No one else helped him. There's no other credits to his songs other than Alan Watts. So to go from doing everything to then just becoming a vocalist, I don't think that's gonna really make him very happy. And I think a lot of the songs were recorded musically before he lost the use of his arm. So how far he'd have gone after that, I don't know. And like you said, like I say, it would have been quite devastating, I would have thought.
Yeah. I didn't know much about Left Hand as well, because obviously they get mentioned a lot in Pete Doherty's book. They looked like the pictures of them looked like really interesting, like really cool band, but is there just not a lot of like stuff about them anymore?
No, again, there's nothing about them really. I spoke to a couple of people that were around the time, and I spoke to. I mean, they wanted to stay anonymous. I think they're quite close to the family still, and I think that was very close to Alan. I think he started that band at school when they were school friends originally. even though there was like a real old bloke that they kept saying about called Steve who used to play the bass because he was the only bloke that knew how to play the bass. So there's past members and other people that are around it that have given me the same information that they was like a real powerful group, but more Verve sounding. Not they definitely weren't country. There was more sounding like the Verve, and he was like an obsessive Oasis fan, Alan, and I think they had that sound to them. And there ain't a lot of footage about them at all, and that broke up obviously when they got in with the Libertines, and then they've said that Alan went off with that group. But again, there's two very separate groups in there. So the Libertines, there was like the musical group, and then the heavy drug side of it. And I think he'd gone that way with Peter, and then a lot of the left hand didn't want to go that way. And he fell out quite badly with the lead singer, who was called Azundo. And he fell out of him, and then he left the band. And then he was really gigging left hand towards the end with just musicians like Jackson Scott and Christian Marr that were stepping in to help. And he was, I think, like I say, just fulfilling gigs as left hand rather than actually it was left hand. Left hand is very short lived, I think. And I can't even get. I've got most of the members, but nobody knows what the bass player's surname was. Everyone knows it was Joe, but no one can remember his surname. So it is really hard to find out information about them. But they was meant to be brilliant. Loads of people have told me that they blew the early Libertines off the stage with their show. I know he was quite charismatic and quite aggressive, the front man, Azundo. So, and I know, like I say, and that was the band where he was the only guitarist, and I think his guitaring really came to the fore in that band, rather than he sunk back a bit as he joined the Lipstick Melodies and wanted to be just a band member.
Oh, okay, right. Do you have any recordings of Left Hand then? Did you manage to find any?
There's an album release called Left Hand that I think were the Left Hand songs, but they've been recorded by the Lipstick Melodies over the years.
Right.
But the only recordings, if you go to the website, there's 2 live recordings of Left Hand where they're supporting the Libertines.
Right, I'll have a look on that.
Yeah, so they're on there, but it's not great. I know Bottle It Up to Go is one, which is on the Libertines album, which is pretty different to what's on the album. But again, the quality is quite poor, but I've put them out there anyway, as it's the only thing by Left Hand.
Right.
Other than that, there's a Hired Gun he's done with Left Hand at the La Scala, but it's not the Left Hand group. That's where he was like, I think it's Jackson Scott on the guitar, and it might even be Phil Clark on the drums by that stage. So it's definitely not Left Hand. It's just Alan Wass, doing a gig as Left Hand. But by that time, I think they'd all gone.
Right. Okay. No, nice one, mate. So obviously you got your channel going. So if people want to know more, they should head there, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's head to the channel, but really the site, www.alanwass.com. That's what I'll be updating there as it goes, and all his music's on there at the moment, free for people to listen to, and enjoy. But how long that'll stay up there for, I'm not sure, because I might get told to take it down, and obviously, legally wise, I'll have to once I'm told and forced to take it down. But I'll find it, I'll put it up there for as long as I can. But all I wanted to do was, thank you really just for letting me on the channel, because I know you do a lot with the Libertines, etc. And I think this would be, if people are remembering Alan Wass, they're remembering really most fondly from either Baby Shangles gigs or the Libertines gigs. So this hopefully will, put his music out there again, which is what, my goal is. It's not really, it's definitely not to earn any money. It's not really to go into his problems. It's just to put him out there solely as a musician in his own right, rather than people just think he was that bloke that hung around with Pete Doherty.
Yeah, fair play, mate. Well, you definitely informed me, so yeah.
Yeah, good
Good stuff.